Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Advisor with Stacey Chillemi. Before we begin, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, iHeartRadio and Speaker. They're the ones who sponsor us and make this happen. So we just like to say thank you to them. Today, I have CarolAnn on. She has her own podcast with us. She is an amazing woman. She has her podcast. She's part of our podcast community. She focuses on many different topics such as grief, helping you to become your true potential in life, getting over resilience and becoming resilient and getting over obstacles in our lives. She's just an amazing woman with a lot of knowledge and a lot of great advice. Today, she's going to talk about different ways of overcoming life's challenges, something that we all need to, keep our ears and are open to, because in life, we all have challenges in life that we need to overcome. But many of us, don't know how to overcome these challenges. We get stuck in life, and sometimes, we fall into depression, anger, anxiety, and many other things. So today she's going to show you how, by her own experiences in life, how to become resilient, how to overcome your challenges, and how to become the person you always wanted to be. CarolAnn, it's a pleasure to have you here. I love when you come on the show. You just have such great knowledge because you've gone through so much in life and your own experiences in life. You handle things with such I don't even know what the word is. You've just been able to overcome so much, and you keep going and you keep moving forward, and nothing, you don't let anything get in your way. Every time you get knocked down, you get up and you move two steps forward, and you don't let anything stop you. For people who haven't heard any of your other podcasts, can you tell people a little about yourself and who you are and what you do?
Well, thank you for having me again. It's so much fun being here with you. I am the CEO of SottoPelle Therapy, which is a hormone-based company that we train physicians how to use a specific hormone, a little small pellet that's been around since 1939. My late husband, Dr. Tutera, was trained how to do this when we lived in Rancho Mirage, California, when he was working with his patients, because after he was trained a few months later, the physician who trained him passed away. So he was using common sense, as he always practiced medicine with common sense, and said, wait a minute here, not everybody wears the same size shoes, so why am I giving everybody the same dose? Women
Yeah.
were way overdosed with too much estrogen and way underdosed with too little testosterone. So he flipped it. He was giving women much less estrogen and much more testosterone. People are surprised when I say to them that women make testosterone. They always thought it was just a male hormone, but
Mhm.
women do make estrogen and testosterone. In our 30s, we were making 300 milligrams a day. That is a lot of testosterone in our 30s, but that's why we felt so great in our 30s. I mean,
Mhm.
women will, you'll ask them and say, oh, what did you like? What decade was it the best for you?
Right.
My 30s, not so much my 20s, because you feel best in your 30s. So physiologically, that's what we're doing. That's what the hormones do, is put you back into that physiological state of your 30s when you
Right.
felt great. You were sharp, you were able to burn fat. Some women were still having children then. It's just an overall wonderful well-being that you feel. Same thing with the hormone pellets. It gives you the overall well-being you're looking for, and it's helping you age gracefully, not old. That's
Right.
what I like.
I think that, I think when it comes to hormone therapy, it can change a person's life. I went, like I told you, I started with perimenopause at 39. I'm now 53, and I've been on hormone therapy since 39. And what a change. I noticed a little bit of a change. The first 3 months, I started to feel a little bit of a change. 6 months, I felt more. 9 months, I started to feel great. And, to the point where I don't feel my age. I feel like I'm in my 30s. I know I'm not, but I feel it, and I try my best,
Wow.
I'm doing my best, putting those creams on and all, and so I'm doing my best. And but hormone therapy is wonderful. It changed my life completely. And every woman that I know that has been on hormone therapy and is still on hormone therapy, they boast about it, how much it's changed their lives. And I know one person, because of her health condition, she had to stop hormone therapy, and she said, wow, what a difference. She goes, I feel so much more sluggish now. I have, my body doesn't feel the same. My clarity, my focus, my moods, everything is different now. And it was because of her health condition. She had to get off hormone therapy. But she said right away she noticed the difference. Unfortunately, she couldn't take hormone therapy anymore. But wow, it was like, she misses it. She goes, how I wish I could go back on hormone therapy because it changes your life, because balancing your hormones, people don't realize our hormones, our whole body is controlled by hormones. And if we don't balance them, everything gets thrown off. And, it keeps us going, it keeps us alive, it keeps everything ticking the way it's supposed to be.
That's right. Absolutely. I can tell when my pellets, because they dissolve, they're regulated by the heart. So when the heart rate pumps faster, the blood licks it, goes by it much quicker, like a kid licking a lollipop. I can
Right.
tell when mine start to diminish between 3.5, 4 months. I start slowing down. I cry at commercials. I can't remember where I put my keys. Uh, it's not, yeah, I can't sleep at night. I start getting hot flashes. It's just incredible what these hormone pellets do for a person's body.
Yeah.
I'm pushing 70, and people have a hard time believing that I'm almost 70 and I'm still working and I'm still running companies.
I know. It's amazing. Like when you tell me your schedule, I'm like, wow, I can't believe that, how much you do in a day, It's and over here on the East Coast, it's 12:30 right now, and you were telling me your schedule right before the show. And I'm like, wow, even on hormone therapy, if I did a quarter of what you did, I'd probably need a nap before I started. It couldn't continue in my day.
Talk to me at about 3:30, since my day starts so early. Yeah. Yeah, I've been in meetings and Zoom calls since 7:30. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
Wednesdays are pretty busy, but I love it. I enjoy it. And I meet with physicians from my company, Tutera Medical in Scottsdale, and we talk about how the practice is doing and how everything's working there. And then I jumped on a tech meeting for SottoPelle. And then I had to get on another call with a business advisor. It's just, yeah, it's keeps me going. That's for sure. I'm active, and I could not do this without the hormones. I know that for a fact. I just do.
I think one of the biggest things that affected me was my fatigue. I had chronic fatigue when I started to go through my imbalances. That was the main thing. I couldn't get out of bed. I was tired all the time.
Well, I'll tell you something interesting, Stacy, is the fact that I just had recent blood work done, and the doctor said you have Epstein-Barr. I said, no, I do not. He said, yeah, it shows on your lab you have Epstein-Barr. I don't feel a thing. I don't
Yeah.
feel tired. I don't feel sluggish. I don't feel like I need to lay down and plop over like a cartoon character.
Yeah.
It doesn't hit me because of the hormones.
Right.
If I didn't have the hormones, I'm sure I would be pretty much, horizontal with everything that I have to do. I don't think I
Yeah.
could carry on with as much work.
Right.
But I
100%.
was shocked. I mean, literally, I said, I got to have another blood work test because I don't think that's right.
Yeah. I would, I always say if people don't like the results they hear, go for a second opinion.
Well, and I did, and it still came up with Epstein-Barr. So, but
What are you
I
gonna
don't
do?
feel it. So that's a
You don't
good
feel
thing.
it.
I've got a great immune system.
That is 100% wonderful. Yeah. You're such a strong woman and you have so much resilience, and you've gone through a lot. You lost your husband 9 years ago. You had a whole business that you shared with him. You were the back end, he was the front end, and then all of a sudden you had to take everything in your own hands and take responsibility for this big company. You had to move forward. You had to try to cope with your grief, which you're still, from all our conversations, that you never get over losing somebody. The pain is always there. We just have to learn how to cope with it. And you shared that many times, the different ways, of coping with it. And now you're moving on, you're interacting with your friends, you're having a fulfilling life the best you can. And so many people wonder How do you overcome your life challenges? How do we get through life's challenges? Because many people, when they get hit with a challenge, some people just freeze up and they hide in a hole, and some
Mhm.
people get totally stuck and they want to get better, they want to overcome the challenge, they just don't know even know where to begin. They feel kind of lost. And then you have people that, want to move forward. They just don't know what highway to go on. They see six different lanes and they're kind of, where do I begin kind of mode. How did you start to overcome all these life challenges that hit you throughout your life?
Well, I can feel for everybody who gets into the hole and wants to go hide, and there's nothing wrong with that. There really isn't, because when life changes and throws curveballs at you, and it does to everybody. I mean,
Mhm.
none of us escape out of this life without having curveballs, unless you've been financially gifted. But I still think even those people have
Yeah.
curveballs. There's no doubt in my mind.
Oh, 100%.
Um, Especially after dealing with the stock market recently.
Yeah.
Woo! That's a fun roller coaster ride.
Oh, yeah.
Um, you know, I'm the kind of person that, for example, when my husband passed, I did not want to join grief groups. I didn't want to hear anybody else's pain because my pain was bad enough. And I don't think
Yes.
in my world, sharing my sob story was going to make me feel any better. Sitting around in a circle and sharing with, I don't know, however many other people. So I
Yeah.
tend to go within, and like to listen to myself. I worked with one person in particular, working with my thoughts, and my thoughts would control the feelings, and the feelings would control the actions. So
Right.
to me, that's more important. I tapped into my spirituality big time when that happened also. When I have major decisions to make, I go within. I don't want to talk to 15 people and get 15 different answers. But some
Yeah.
people do, and that's okay. I'm just not one of them. I would
Yeah.
also write and journal and see what would come up. I would pay attention to my dreams and see what's going on that part of the world for me, because that's just an extension of daytime. It's
Hmm.
still you who's having these dreams, because it's you who's in here. You are paying attention to you. You are paying attention to what's going on in your dreams. We get messages all the time of where we need to be and go. And if we go down a wrong path, there's no right or wrong. You
Yeah.
eventually get back onto that street where you're meant to be. So I think the biggest challenge for people is making that decision. Did I make a good decision? Did I make a bad decision? We start critiquing ourselves. It's
Yes.
not good or bad. It's, you made a decision. All right, let's see where it goes. If it
Hmm.
doesn't feel good, and I'm a gut person, if it doesn't feel good in my gut, I'll pivot quickly, take another path.
Right. It's very important for people to be self-aware of themselves, and like you said, we get signs all the time. And the problem is, I think there are a lot of people who will listen to those signs. When I see signs, I stop immediately and I reevaluate the situation. And is this decision really good for me? Maybe I need to
Mhm.
rethink it and reevaluate it and maybe do something differently. But there are a lot of people out there too that, that just focus on they just see things one way and that's it. They can't open the doors to other options because it's just their personality. They just, they have a way of thinking. They have to be in control. This is the way it should be, and that's it. And that could, those characteristics, sometimes could work for you and work against you. It's great when you want to be strong and you want to be resilient and you want to be able to, work through the challenge yourself. But you have to really stop and think. Sometimes we can't do it all ourselves. We have to open the
Mm.
door, maybe have other people come in, and help us along the way. And I think that's where some people have problems, is where letting people in and trust in others to help you through the hard times and the hard challenges.
There is nothing wrong with having a therapist. There's nothing wrong with having a life coach. These people can, as you said, help open that door and see another point of view. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Even after my divorce, when I came home from the East Coast to Kansas City, I was just before my 30s. I had a 2.5, and I went into therapy because I knew it was important for me. It was
Yeah.
amazing at that time. I never realized I couldn't put my actions together with my words. I would
Yeah.
say how horrible something was, and I'd sit there with a big smile on my face. Oh, he was so mean to me. Like, what was that about? I
Yeah.
learned how to mask my feelings at an early age.
Right.
Come from a family where I have a father who was very strong and showed me incredible entrepreneurial skills. I had a mother who was not very loving, warm, and cushy, huggy, squeezy, smushy.
Hmm.
It was, she pushed me off the driveway to go to school. You're going, and that's the way it is.
Right.
So I didn't want to go to school. I was not one of those kids who enjoyed school, but once I got there and got into that environment, I had a blast.
Right.
I noticed my son was the same way. I'd have to tell all his school teachers, okay, he's the kind of kid who'll sit there and watch you and not say much for the first semester. And second semester, he's like shot out of a cannon because he feels comfortable in that environment. And I
Yeah.
think that's what it comes down to for us as humans is learning where our comfort zone is.
Right.
The more you share with others, the more that's going to come back.
Yes.
That's just the key to it. If you are uncomfortable sharing, you're going to have a hard time getting to know the true you who can share with the other people. Does that make
Right.
sense?
It does make sense. Now, when you shared with others and others, a lot of times some people will help, ask you questions because they want you to come to the realization of the answers yourself. But when people did, give you advice or they did share with you things and, they saw things in you that, if you change certain characteristics, it might be better for you or certain ways of doing things or certain ways of thinking. Was it hard to accept, when the truth was kind of pushed in your face, like, but for a good reason? Because people wanted to help you, but they wanted you to realize certain things that you're doing that might be harmful to your growth.
I think at the beginning it was tough because change is horrible. Nobody likes change. I mean, come on, let's call a spade a spade. We all
Yeah.
think change is the worst thing ever on this planet.
Yeah.
Um, when that was brought to my attention about my smiling and being hurt, that was an eye opener. You call them aha moments.
Yeah.
Fast forward about 15 years, and I did a 2-year course in spiritual psychology, and we'd meet once a month on weekends. You had to play a neutral observer, therapist, and then you got to be the one in the hot seat and share your life.
Hmm.
Those aha moments were coming faster and faster. And then it got to a point where, oh my gosh, I want more of this. I want more of this. It became a drug where you started realizing all the different areas that were opening up within me so I
Yeah.
could share myself even more and be
Right.
more authentic to who I am. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I love those aha moments because I know that's a big point of growth for me. That
Right.
helps me. You can't always go through life like this. Your
No.
hormones do, but we don't. We're going
Right.
to be going up that hill and you're going to hit the plateau and you go, oh, I made it. I got a big growth.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you're going to end up falling sometime sooner or later. You can't stay up
Exactly.
at this high forever. There's going to be another lesson, another lesson, another lesson. I learned long ago, somebody taught me about the stove. You you're going to be presented a lesson. The stove's going to turn on with a low flame
Hmm.
just to get your attention.
Right.
Didn't get the lesson. So the stove's going to turn on even higher. Okay, I felt the singe this time. Guess what? Still didn't get the lesson. So it's going to be turned up higher and higher until you finally get burnt so badly you go, I get it. Got the
Hmm.
lesson. Time to move on. Okay, universe, give me another one.
Right.
So that's how I perceive life. And that's how I've become resilient and being able to move on and grow. And I don't know if it's really moving on. It's more of a growth that we take.
Yeah. I think, sometimes we do have to get burnt to learn a little lesson because sometimes you know, we keep doing things and doing things and doing things, and then finally we do get burnt, and then we come to realization of our behaviors and our actions. And then we realize, you know what, this wasn't good for me actually. It just took time to get to that point where
Mhm.
you actually, you felt the mistake, and
Right.
just like everyone.
When the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Yeah.
And the teacher has a lot of lessons for you. You get to learn to grow because anybody on this spiritual path knows this is our playground. We came here to learn, to grow. And now I'm really, really letting it soak in that we're here just to have fun.
Yeah.
This is go through every day with joy.
Yeah.
Try and find the positives in everything. Even the guy who's going so slow in front of you when you're driving your car, you have a choice. You can sit behind the wheel where he can't hear you and go, "Why are you going so slow? Get along." You start honking, beeping, and we all get crazy like this. That's a
Yeah.
choice. Or you can go, okay, I must be having to slow down for a reason. Maybe there's a police up ahead. Maybe
Hmm.
there's a car accident I'm being saved from. It's a choice on how you want to be. And I'm truly understanding to be resilient, you need to have the joy in your life and you need to look at things and go, oh, whatever. It is
Yeah.
what it is. Just enjoy it for what it is.
Because I feel like if you don't enjoy it and you keep focusing on, I got to pay the bills, I got to do this, I got this one coming up, and I got da 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 da, and you keep looking at everything in life and you leave out happiness and joy,
Mhm.
then eventually it's going to break you down. You're not going to be having fun, and all you're going to be thinking about is life's responsibilities, the curveballs, everything in life that's going on in your life, but so many people forget to have gratitude and focus on the things that are bringing them joy and bringing them happiness, and they're focusing so much on the things that are meaningless that we can't bring with us when we cross over to the heavens. They're thinking about, oh, the mortgage is coming up, oh, I got my credit card bills to pay, oh, I got payroll, oh, I got this, I got that, I got the
Right,
car, you know and
right.
they're forgetting about life.
Yeah. And remember, gratitude is the highest energy that we can hold on to, which brings us the love and the joy.
Yes.
And a lot of people think, gratitude. Okay, so I'm grateful for my house, big deal. But you really have to feel that gratitude to bring it in, to be able to expend it out to others.
Yes. Yes. And there's so many exercises people can do. They can journal. They can put little notes in a jar. I went to a retreat one time, and their thing was in the morning when you were having your cup of coffee or your tea, you wrote 9 things down on a little piece of paper and you stuffed it in a jar. And it was 9 things that you had gratitude for. And it made you think about the little things in life that we
Mm-hmm.
sometimes get to ignore.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So it is important. And it's important how you interact with everybody else.
Yeah.
Do you want to be right or do you want to feel good?
Right.
And there are some people in this world who hang on to being right. No
Right.
matter how you say things to them, you could even change it up so they hear you. They still want to be right. I know I'm
Yes.
right. I'm right. And I'm going to prove to you I'm right. It's not a matter of knowing I'm right. I'm going to go back and prove to you I'm right.
Right.
I prefer to feel good.
Yes.
Move on. It is what it is. You made a choice to be right. That's your choice. I've made a choice to feel good.
Yes.
It's pretty
I've noticed.
simple.
Yeah, it's very simple. And I've noticed that when I've gone out with people, there are people there that have to be right. I remember someone said something and the other person took out their phone. They had to Google because they thought it was a different answer than the person that gave the answer. And I'm thinking to myself, does it really matter? Does it
Right?
matter if this person is right or wrong, or they got their facts a little mixed up? The story is the story. They pronounce it a certain way. Does it really matter? It's like,
Yeah,
if I
and then
can't get it.
you've you've got those people who will pull out the phone and flip back through the text and said, "That's what you said.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you you said that." Okay, I said it. I had a moment. It is what it is.
Exactly. Exactly. And I don't get it, but I feel like those are the people who are always, they have that little frown on their face, and
Hmm.
they're not enjoying life because they're too, I don't understand why people do that. I don't understand why they have to prove they're right, why it's so important to them, you know. I'm sure it goes back to their childhood area.
Well, it's a control. They feel comfortable when they've got that little feeling of control within. That's my opinion.
I think
Somebody
you're right.
else may be listening and say, "Hey, what you don't know what you're talking about." Okay, fine. That's your thought. And it's a shame that on the internet and in social media, you read so much about people wanting to be right about somebody else's life.
Yes.
And Gail King went up in space the other day, and she's been
Mhm.
commenting lately how sad it is that people have to make a negative remark about the all-woman crew going up. And I,
Right.
I guess they're all being really stepped on right now about going up and that
Yeah.
they're not really astronauts. It's not so much whether they are or aren't. It's not so much whether it's an all-women crew or they aren't. They all
Yes.
went up together. They all had an experience. Let them own the experience with some positive energy behind it. That's
Yes.
how we should all take a look at it.
That's a beautiful way of looking at it because, a lot of times people will criticize, oh, it's only an 11-minute trip. Oh, it's only this.
Yeah, she's only in space for 4 minutes. That's not an astronaut.
Yeah.
Hey, well, whatever. She wants to call herself an astronaut, let her call herself an astronaut. She wants to call
Exactly.
herself a car, let her call herself a car. We all have to learn we're all on the planet, we're all connected, but we're all individuals and let
Yes,
each other live their life the way they want to live it. You
exactly.
know, it, we present ourselves to people, and I want to take my time with this because it really has a lot of meaning behind it. So I'm presenting myself to you, how you're wanting to perceive my life. So I'm going to fit my life knowing how you want my life to be.
Yeah,
That's a lot of work,
that is a lot of work.
but that's what we do. We
Yeah,
know how people want to see us, so we have to rearrange how we are to fit into the world that they see us as.
yes,
Whew, it's too much.
it is too much. I did that for years, and then I got to a point in my life where I was like, you know what? This is who I am. This is what I want to be. It took me a while to figure it out, but then when I got there, I felt so much freer and so much happier being me, being the person I was. It took me some time to figure out who I was. And when I figured out who I was, what I wanted, and all the other good stuff that came along with it, and I was being me, I felt good. And not everybody liked it, but the hell with everybody. I felt good. And I know so many people, especially people who were born in the 50s and 60s, they conformed. They had, parents that were very strong when it came to discipline. Then they married someone with a controlling attitude, and then they did everything to serve that person. And what about them? When did they give time to themselves? And they suffered. Now they're in their 60s and 70s, and they're missing a part of their lives, and they feel it. They
Mm-hmm.
feel like a part of them. There's a part of them that's missing inside, in their heart, in their self-esteem, in the way they feel about themselves. And it's because they always conform to everybody else but themselves.
Well, that's what we were taught. I'm part of that. I
Mhm.
was raised in the 60s, even though I was born in the 50s,
Yeah.
where my mother had to have us all dressed. We all had to be looking nice. There were four of us bumper to bumper, actually three bumper to bumper, and then a fourth couple years later. And then a
Yeah.
long time later came another one. The three of us always had to be dressed. We always had to look good. I was trained and taught and saw when my father came home, you look presented. You had dinner on the table. You always had to be present for your husband.
Yes.
Well, my younger sister, who's 11 years younger than me, whew, Completely different world for her.
Yeah.
What, you're coming home for dinner? Good. Get yourself something to eat. I'm going out with the girlfriends. I would never do that.
Right. Yeah.
That's so far from the way I was raised. Really? Can I
Yeah.
do that? That's something I can do? I've never thought of that. But she's all over being independent and living her life, even though she's
Right.
married.
Hmm.
I'm not that way.
Right.
Is her way right? My way right? Doesn't matter. That's what she's comfortable with. This is what I'm comfortable with.
Right. Exactly. And I think that's a big problem is that people just they have to put their nose in other people's business and decide what's right for everybody else when they ignore themselves, and they should be focusing more on themselves and what's right for them and what makes them happy and what makes them the person, that's strong enough to overcome challenges and experience joy and have happiness in their lives.
It's absolutely right. We love to tell everybody else how they should be. Oh, no, you've got to be this way. Oh, you've got to do that. Oh, you should be working over here. Oh, you should be dating this person. Oh, you can do better than that. Oh, that's my favorite saying. That really pushes me over the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
go ahead.
It's a shame how we all think we know better for everybody else, but we don't take the time for ourselves.
Yes, it's so true. There were many times in my life where I cared for people and I saw them going off track and I wanted to be the one to dive in and save them. And I would tell them, "Oh, no, you have so much potential. You should be doing this and da 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 da." But, and then I had to have a friend pull me aside and said, "They're never going to be like that because that's
Yeah.
not them. They don't
Right.
want that. They're never going to be like that. That's you. That's not them, And even though I meant well, it took me a long time to realize, because sometimes you want the best for people. You want to see people, they have the potential to shine and they just don't want to shine. And for me, it was like, you can shine. Why aren't you shining? You got to do this, you got to do that, And it took me a long time, and then I
Mhm.
realized, you know what? I have to focus on me, and I have to
Mhm.
stop trying to tell others, how they can, reach their fullest potential in life because they're happy being them. And this is what they want, You can't
Yeah,
change us. You can't
right.
change it.
Right. Who are we to say what's best for somebody else? We don't
Yeah.
live in their shoes. We don't live behind their door. We're not living in their body.
Yes. Exactly.
We
Exactly.
have this body to deal with.
100%. And that's a beautiful way of saying it because that's exactly what it is. I think if people stop to think like that, and then, so simply, you said that, but it's so powerful, people maybe would, think twice about, opening their mouths and giving their opinions and, trying to stop others from, being who they are and what they want to do in life.
Yeah, pretty simple.
Pretty simple.
So simple, but so hard to do because we're nothing
Yes.
but a bunch of rescuers.
Yes, yes, and I've learned over the years. I've been practicing my best just to pull away and let people be what they want to be. If people want help, they will come to you and they will ask you. If they don't ask you, just let people just be who they are and let them just do their thing because that's who they are. That's what they want to be. Unless they're in crisis, even when people are in crisis, you cannot save someone if they're going to hit rock bottom, unless they want to save themselves. So, you
Hmm.
horse to water, but you can't they can't force the horse to drink it. So it took me a long time to realize that, but I'm at the point where I do realize that, and I've changed the way I approach things in life because of that.
That's good. And then you probably have more joy in your life because of it. And you're not as stressed thinking, I know what's better for everybody else. What's wrong with them? And that's what we do. And that's the mind chatter that constantly goes on in there.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, if you had to take today's conversation and you had to pull out some important factors, what are some things that you want people to realize from this conversation?
Oh gosh, be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing people can do for themselves is be kind and appreciate, truly love yourself for being you.
Yes.
Give yourself a pat on the back, give yourself a big old hug.
Hmm.
You're pretty special. And I don't think a lot of people realize that they are special.
Yes. That is so true. when I've talked to people and I have told people how special they are, they look at me and they're like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. And I'm thinking to myself, how could you say that? Because
Right,
it all depends how people feel within. And that's where therapy or coaching comes in. If you don't feel good about yourself, don't wait, and I had one person say, well, they grew up in a family where we don't go for help, that's not our thing,
right.
you know. But it's the best thing for you. And now it's so accepted and so norm in our society. There's so many teenagers going for help and just talking to somebody, get them through college, just to get through the stresses. And for adults, it's a great thing. It's a great
Yeah,
thing.
right. Absolutely it is. And then they also have all the apps
Hmm.
that you don't even have to leave your house. You can do it right there in the comfort of your own house.
Exactly. That's a great
Yeah.
point.
And then I remember doing coursework years ago with Louise Hay, and she has what she calls mirror work. And you stand in front of the mirror and you tell yourself you love yourself.
I
You're
love that.
special. I am wonderful. I am incredible. And you list all these things, and it's going to be the hardest thing that you will ever do because you're having to look at you and make your own eye contact. And if you
Yes.
can only squeak out two, then that's great. You work your way up, but
Yes.
that's real powerful.
That
Yeah.
is powerful. And it sounds easy, but it's not easy to do. But once you can get to that point, where you're able to do that, you've really accomplished a tremendous amount. You've gotten over that hump and you're headed towards the rainbow for sure.
Oh, good. That's a good thing. That's Dorothy and Over the Rainbow. That's my
Yes.
favorite. Love it.
Now, if people wanted to contact you and, where could they find you?
Our website is SottoPelle Therapy, SottoPelle therapy.com, or you can email to response at spHRT.com.
I love it. Well, this has been amazing. I love having you on the show, CarolAnn. You have such great, input. You have just a great way of speaking and such complicated issues, but you break it down into such, simple little tasks that you could do on yourself, by yourself, with the help of others also, and you can just change your life around. We all can change our life around at any
Mhm.
time. That's one thing I want to say before we go. It doesn't matter what age you are. It's never too late to change and reach your full potential. Any dream can become a reality as long as you want it bad enough.
Yep.
So
Thank you
thank
for
you
having
so
me.
much for coming. Oh, you're very welcome. I love having you on this show. I look forward to our next conversation.
You got
You have,
it.
you have a great day.
You too.